Israeli forces attack Al-Aqsa again. UN holds emergency session. U.S. students stage national walkout to demand gun control. State police recover copy of Quran taken from Texas Capitol. Imam provides sanctuary for migrants and homeless in Mosque. OIC says Muslims are being targeted during Hindu festival. Swedish court overturns ban Quran burnings. Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to reopen embassies. Over 400 human rights defenders murdered last year. From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. Israeli soldiers attacked Palestinians worshipping at Al-Aqsa Mosque for a second time on Wednesday. The heavily armed forces fired tear gas and stun grenades as worshippers were performing the Ramadan Tarawih night prayer. In response, Palestinians fired rockets from Gaza and Lebanon. Now, Israeli police are banning Palestinian men under the age of 40 from entering Islam's third holiest site. The UN Security Council held an emergency session today to discuss the violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. The first assault on worshippers took place Tuesday night. Israeli soldiers beat Palestinians with batons and guns, then threw them down on the ground and handcuffed them. The soldiers also fired stun grenades and tear gas into the mosque. Columbia University's announcement that it will open a center in Tel Aviv has drawn outrage. In a letter, nearly 100 faculty members have asked the university to reverse the decision. This is because of the new far-right government in Israel, as well as Israeli discrimination against Palestinians. The letter notes that the State of Israel, through formal and informal law, policy, and practice, refuses to abide by international human rights laws. The plans for the new center were announced on Monday. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation has denounced the provocative acts of violence and vandalism during the Hindu festival of Ram Navami in India. In a statement on Tuesday, the OIC said instances of attacks on Muslims during the 9-day festival were a vivid manifestation of mounting Islamophobia and systemic targeting of the Muslim community in India. India's foreign ministry condemned the statement, saying the OIC showed an anti-India agenda. The Jeddah, Saudi Arabia-based 57-member group said the violence during Ram Navami processions saw the burning of a Muslim school and its library by an extremist Hindu mob in the city of Bihar Sharif. Similar incidents of violence were reported from West Bengal, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, and other states. Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch says that India's Hindu festivals are increasingly being used by the ruling Hindu Nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party to rally voters, leading to an increase in violence. It said these mobs are emboldened by a sense of political patronage that affords them impunity. Students across the United States walked out of their classrooms on Wednesday to take part in a nationwide protest demanding gun control legislation. More than 10,000 Americans have died in gun violence in a little over 3 months this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive. Wednesday's national school walkout followed a smaller demonstration Monday in Nashville, Tennessee. That was where 6 people, including 3 9-year-old children, were shot dead last week at an elementary school. We've grown up in the midst of America's gun violence crisis. In fact, we've been called the school shooting generation, Wednesday's protest organizer Students Demand Action explained. Now we're rising up and organizing in our high schools, colleges, and communities across the country to demand action to end gun violence. Researchers at New York University calculated last year that the risk of a person dying in a mass shooting was 70% lower when the 1994 federal assault weapons ban was in effect until 2004. The Texas Department of Public Safety has found the person who removed a copy of the Quran from the Texas Capitol sanctuary. However, the identity of the individual and their motivation for taking it out of the chapel remains unknown. On March 23rd, Salman Bojani placed his copy of the Quran in the small sanctuary on the Capitol's 4th floor. Bojani is one of 2 Muslim members of the Texas legislature. But the copy of the scripture disappeared less than a week later. On Tuesday, Representative Bojani said in a statement, "The chapel is a safe space for all Texans to practice their faith traditions, and I'm honored that our Muslim brothers and sisters have a place to pray and reflect, especially during this holy month of Ramadan." Middle East Eye reports that 2 professors have withdrawn their affiliation from George Washington University's program on extremism due to Islamophobia. This came after a report in the New Yorker magazine last month that the program's director had been involved in a coordinated campaign to link several Muslim organizations to terrorism. Hilary Matfis is an assistant professor at the University of Denver and a former fellow at GWU's extremism program. She told Middle East Eye, "Before affiliating, I should have done my due diligence about the director's research and professional activities. I didn't, and I regret that." Cynthia Miller-Idris, the second professor, is founding director of American University's Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab. She said in a tweet, "I refuse to lend legitimacy to an organization with such an egregious ethical breach." The report in The New Yorker alleged that a Geneva-based private intelligence firm pitched a campaign to the UAE to smear several Muslim organizations in Europe. For that, director of GW's program on extremism, Lorenzo Vidino, was paid thousands of euros. This was for what The New Yorker said was interesting leads or rumors about the Muslim Brotherhood, as well as a list of alleged members of the first-tier organizations in European countries. An imam in the Bronx has turned his mosque's basement into a refuge for hundreds of migrants from various African nations seeking asylum in the United States. Imam Omar Nias leads the Jamhiyatu Ansaruddin Islamic House of Worship. For the last 3 years, the imam says over 900 migrants have passed through this basement, with more than 100 currently staying there. It serves as a temporary shelter as they seek asylum and a better life in the United States. He told New York City's Spectrum News that they started like 3 people, 4 people. "I don't like the people living in the street. Let them come." The imam called the migrants blessings. On Wednesday, the Daily Beast reported that Russian state TV is brutally mocking former President Donald Trump. This is following his indictment on 34 counts of felonies this week. It said during Friday's broadcast of Russian TV program 60 Minutes, an AI-generated image of Trump in court donning an orange outfit was broadcast. They wondered out loud if the former U.S. president would be elected in 2024 and joked about Trump sitting in the Oval Office sporting orange coveralls and handcuffs. One commentator said perhaps Trump would end up seeking asylum in Russia. Swedish court overturns ban on Quran burnings. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. A Swedish court on Tuesday overturned a police move to ban 2 Quran burning protests. The Sweden Supreme Administrative Court overturned a police decision to ban 2 Quran burning protests in February. The court said security risk concerns were not enough to limit the right to demonstrate. In January, the burning of Islam's holy book outside Turkey's embassy in Stockholm angered the Muslim world. It sparked weeks of protests and calls for a boycott of Swedish goods. Turkey is also holding up Sweden's NATO membership bid. For the first time since such killings have been tracked, more than 400 human rights defenders were murdered worldwide last year. According to Frontline Defenders' annual global analysis, at least 401 human rights defenders in 26 countries were victims of targeted killings in 2022. Nearly half of these occurred in Colombia, the report published Tuesday revealed. 7 human rights defenders were murdered in India, which is more than double the number murdered in China or Burma. Barely weeks after Microsoft made a $10 billion investment in ChatGPT, it scrapped its entire ethics and society team. Its job was to make sure the technology was safe to use. The Verge reported that the group worked to identify risks within the company's plans to rapidly integrate OpenAI's tech into its product suite. Now, Echo, a global consumer watchdog, has launched a campaign to reverse Microsoft's decision. It says that the company hopes to distract from its reckless drive for profits with the media hype around AI. But Echo says it will prove the company wrong. Experts have warned that chatbots like ChatGPT pose new, deep risks to safety and privacy. They say they can enable bad actors to spread malicious lies more quickly than ever before. This was after brokers revealed information about them to local villagers. Authorities have sent 65 of the people to prison in Mon State to await trial. A lawyer representing the Rohingya said Burma's military junta often considers such people as illegal immigrants. He said they would likely be charged with immigration law violations. The 4 brokers who identified the Rohingya Muslims, Buddhists from western Burma's Rakhine State, were also arrested. In 2017, the Burmese army launched a genocide against the Rohingya in Rakhine State, prompting an exodus to Bangladesh. but close to 500,000 still remain in Rakhine State, and around 125,000 are living in displaced people's camps in the state. Every year, hundreds flee the camps and seek refuge in countries like Malaysia and Indonesia in small boats without many supplies. Saudi Arabia and Iran's foreign ministers met in Beijing on Thursday to resume diplomatic relations. Saudi Arabia cut diplomatic ties with Iran in 2016 in response to attacks on Saudi diplomatic missions in Iran after the kingdom executed a Shia cleric. The move came after a landmark agreement mediated by China last month. Chinese Foreign Minister Xi Gang said China supports countries in the Middle East in upholding their strategic autonomy, strengthening solidarity and cooperation, and eliminating external interference. He made the remarks in a meeting with Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud and Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian. Before we end today's news, I'd like to make a special request. It takes our team 55 hours of work daily to produce this news for you. It is news with a unique perspective, and you will find it only here. Sound Vision is a not-for-profit organization, and just like PBS and NPR, it depends on your donations. Please visit MuslimNetwork.tv to donate now, or click the link below to donate. Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit MuslimNetwork.tv. Salam and good night.